A pair of shiny gold boxing gloves hit the wooden floor with a loud slam. The sharp sound echoed through the busy crowd inside the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas. George Foreman, who was 76 years old, stopped walking. He stood still on the stage. His big body froze, and his hands were empty. It felt like all his years of boxing were falling down with those gloves. In the crowd, people gasped. No one expected what just happened. Dante Cruz, a strong and young boxing champion, stood tall. He had never lost a fight. He grinned, showing his teeth, and said loudly, "You're too old, Foreman. Go back to being a preacher." The room went silent. Fans and fighters looked down at the floor. Some looked away. No one wanted to speak against Dante. He was the champ now. Jason Statham stood quietly near the front. He was wearing a neat black suit. His arms were crossed, and he didn't say a word. But his eyes were sharp and serious. He saw everything. Dante kicked the gloves away with his foot. "This is my ring now," he said, full of himself. Jason took a step forward and fixed his sleeves. The air felt heavy. Everyone turned to look at him. It wasn't just about boxing anymore. It was about respect. Dante had gone too far. Dante laughed out loud. "What's this guy going to do?" he said, pointing at Jason. Jason looked back at him. He didn't blink. His stare was cold and strong. Dante's grin started to shake. A tiny bit of fear showed in his eyes. But before we go on, don't forget to like and subscribe to see what happens when Jason Statham faces off with a rude boxer. Also, comment below where you're watching from today. Back at the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas, the crowd was buzzing on that cool March night in 2025. The hall was packed. Old boxing posters hung on the walls. They were torn at the edges, like old memories. On a giant screen above, a blurry video showed George Foreman knocking out Muhammad Ali in 1974. The crowd from that fight cheered in the background. George walked onto the stage. His gray hair shined under the lights. His voice was low but strong. Even at 76, he stood tall and proud. He wore a clean suit and held a pair of black and gold boxing gloves. "These gloves mean more than just fights," he said. "They show strength and heart." Everyone in the room listened closely. They felt respect. Near the front, Jason Statham stood quietly. He wasn't a guest of honor, just someone in the crowd. But his black suit looked sharp, and his hands, covered in small scars, showed he had fought battles of his own. His eyes never stopped moving. He watched everything. Then the big doors swung open with a loud bang. Dante Cruz walked in like a storm. He had won 28 fights and lost none. His chest stuck out like a rooster's. His fists kept moving, like they couldn't wait to punch something. He was 30 years old and the top boxing champion. But the way he walked, it was like he needed more. He wanted to beat the old legends, like George Foreman, and take all the attention for himself. He looked around the room and stared at George. His eyes looked hungry, like a lion staring at a meal. The crowd split into two sides. The older fans, with wrinkled faces and hard hands, clapped slowly for George. They knew what he had gone through to become a champion. Younger fans jumped and shouted Dante's name. They loved his confidence. The room was filled with pressure. The gold gloves in George's hands sparkled in the light. They were a piece of history, but also a target. Dante's boots scraped the floor as he walked closer. His shadow stretched across the stage like a monster's. Jason moved a little. The quiet sound of his shoes made some heads turn. His scarred hands didn't move. They were still, but ready. George stood firm. He was calm, like a mountain. Dante wanted to knock him down, but George didn't flinch. Jason watched closely, ready for whatever came next. Then Dante grabbed the microphone. He yanked it out of the stand and yelled, "Foreman, you fought weak fighters. I'd beat you in 10 seconds. The crowd gasped. Some older fans stopped clapping. The younger ones leaned in, surprised and excited. Dante turned and ripped the gold gloves right out of George's hands. Then he threw them hard to the floor. They hit with a loud thud. George's hands moved just a little. He took one step forward, just one, but it was powerful. His shadow covered Dante. His eyes were full of fire. But he didn't speak. He stayed calm. He had been through worse. The whole room went quiet again. Everyone watched. Then a voice broke the silence. It was rough and low, like thunder far away. Pick them up. Heads turned. Jason Statham stepped away from the wall. His suit looked clean and sharp in the light. He didn't yell, but everyone heard him. Dante looked over and laughed. "What's this?" "The movie guy," he said. "Go back to your films, Statham. This is for real fighters." Dante stomped his boot on the gloves, kicking them farther. The gold threads sparkled as they slid. "I own this night. Deal with it," he shouted. Some of the kids cheered for Dante. They liked his loud mouth. But the older fans were angry. They muttered to each other and clenched their fists. Jason didn't move. Then he started walking slowly toward Dante. His hands were tight, his knuckles white. His face didn't change. "I'll shut that mouth for you," he said. His voice was cold and calm, like ice. The room tilted. Dante looked unsure now. Jason wasn't just an actor. He was something more. Dante's grin twitched. Then he threw off his jacket with a loud slap. It hit the floor. He pointed at the old boxing ring in the corner. "Let's go," he shouted. "Step up or shut up." People started shouting. Some still cheered for Dante, but others were starting to believe in Jason. Jason didn't say anything. He just nodded at George. A quiet thank you. Then he walked to the ring. The hall exploded with noise. Old men banged on tables. Kids ran toward the ropes. Jason stepped into the ring. His steps were quiet. His body was ready like a coiled spring. Dante followed, still smiling, still loud. He cracked his knuckles and stared at Jason. The bell didn't even need to ring. Dante ran forward and threw a punch with his right hand. Crack! The punch hit Jason's cheek. Blood flew in a red arc. It splashed onto the mat. The crowd gasped. The kids cheered. Dante had hit first. A thin line of red ran down Jason's face and onto his suit. He didn't fall. He didn't even blink. He wiped the blood off with his sleeve. His knuckles were red now. His eyes stayed locked on Dante. Jason watched him. Every move, every breath, every twitch of Dante's fists. He was learning. The old fans leaned closer. One of them whispered, "He's reading him." Dante walked in a circle, smiling like a wolf. But Jason stood still. Quiet. Waiting. The storm was coming. Dante walked in a circle around Jason. His mouth twisted into a big, mean frown. He was acting like the tough guy again. Then he yelled, his voice loud like a thunderstorm bouncing off the stone walls. He pulled back his right arm and swung it fast and hard, trying to punch Jason in the head. The punch whooshed through the air like a rocket. Everyone in the crowd gasped. The punch didn't hit Jason's head, but it did brush his shoulder. Jason's leather suit made a scraping sound under the force. Kids sitting in the front row jumped up from their seats. They shouted with excitement, their hands in fists, cheering loudly. "Get him, Dante! Finish it!" they screamed. Old people in the crowd didn't move.
They leaned forward, their eyes glued to Jason, watching him like hawks ready to see something big happen. Jason's cheek still had blood from an earlier punch, but he didn't move back. He didn't look scared. His hands were covered in scars and stayed loose, ready to fight. Dante's shadow was big and close now. Dante smiled like he already won. He threw another wild punch, this time swinging his fist as fast as he could at Jason's face. But Jason moved to the side smoothly. The punch missed, flying past his ear. In the same moment, Jason punched back with his left hand. It was a quick jab that hit Dante right on the chin. Dante's head snapped back and he grunted. The whole room went wild. "He's got this!" a kid yelled from the back. Others joined in, their cheers growing louder and louder like ocean waves. Dante's fans started to get quiet, while Jason's fans cheered with all their heart. Old folks clapped and slammed their hands on the tables, their deep voices mixing into the noise. The crowd was now believing in Jason. Dante's smile disappeared. His eyes got smaller, serious. He shook his head like he was trying to clear it. But Jason was staring right at him, not blinking, like a lion watching a weak animal. Jason didn't wait. His right hand punched again, this time a strong hook that hit Dante on the nose. Crack! Blood flew out in a red spray, painting the floor. Dante stepped back, his hand on his face. His breathing was rough. The crowd yelled louder, now sounding more wild. The kids looked surprised. Some stopped cheering. Dante didn't look like a champion anymore. An older kid shouted, "Did you see that?" The old people in the crowd nodded, small smiles on their faces. Jason wasn't just defending himself, he was fighting back strong. Dante blinked and blood dripped on his chest. For a moment, he didn't look so confident. He looked worried, like a king afraid he might lose his throne. Dante took big breaths. His nose flared like a mad bull. Then he roared, loud and scary. He ran at Jason with a storm of punches. Left, right, left, swinging like crazy. The air shook with each hit, like someone banging big drums. Dante wanted to crush Jason under the weight of his rage. The crowd got even closer to the ropes. Everyone was shouting. Kids screamed Dante's name, begging their hero to win. But the older fans were louder now, yelling for Jason, believing in him. Jason stayed calm. He moved like water, ducking one punch, dodging the next. His feet glided on the mat like a dancer. Dante's punches were getting wilder and messier. But Jason was sharp, his eyes bright and focused, watching every move like a hawk. Far off to the side, a big man named George Foreman watched quietly. A little smile showed on his lips. He was an old fighter, and he could tell what was happening. Others noticed. People in the crowd pointed and whispered, "George knows what's coming." An old trainer near the front slammed his fist on the table. "That's it. Dante's done," he shouted. The room was full of pressure. Everyone was holding their breath. It felt like the whole place was about to explode. Jason ducked under another punch. His jacket flew up as he spun. Dante's punch hit nothing but air. The crowd shouted louder, voices sharp and wild. "Dante's finished," someone yelled. More voices joined in. Kids held their heads. The old folks slapped their legs. The building shook with noise. Everyone was watching, not blinking. Dante was breathing hard now, his face red with sweat and blood. He looked like a tired soldier still trying to win a war. He let out a loud growl and kept punching, faster and faster. Jabs, hooks, wild swings. He was trying to win with everything he had. But Jason kept dodging. His moves were smooth like a snake. His eyes burned with fire, never looking away from Dante. The crowd had turned into a beast. Everyone screamed, stomped, and clapped. The noise made the floor vibrate. The old folks' cheers were now louder than the kids. George Foreman's smile grew bigger. He leaned forward, watching Jason take Dante apart, bit by bit. The air felt heavy, full of energy, like lightning before a storm. Dante looked tired, like his time as champion was about to end. Jason stood ready in the center of it all, strong and steady, ready to strike. Then the bell rang. It screamed through the air like a whistle, breaking the tension. The next round had started. No more waiting. Just raw, real fighting in the ring. The crowd rushed to the ropes. Everyone wanted to see. Kids yelled. Old people roared. The air smelled like sweat and hope. Dante jumped into motion. He held his arms in a special way called the Philly shell. His shoulder protected his chin. His hands moved fast, sending jab after jab toward Jason. One punch smashed Jason's cheekbone. A loud pop. Blood spilled down his face. The kids went wild. Dante's got him. Finish it. The old folks looked worried. Their hands gripped their chairs tightly. But Jason didn't move. He stood firm. Blood ran down his face, but he was still strong. He brought up his arms in the peekaboo style. His fists were high, elbows in tight, blocking most of Dante's punches. Dante kept punching fast, like a machine gun. But Jason's eyes stayed open, sharp, watching every movement. Then Dante sneered and spun, throwing a huge hook. It came at Jason's head like a hammer. But Jason ducked. He bent his body like flowing water. In the same moment, His left hand shot out and slammed into Dante's temple. Thud. The crowd gasped. Dante stumbled, slipping on the mat. His hand reached out for balance. "There it is!" someone yelled. Old fans slapped the tables, cheering. Dante's face twisted in pain. Blood still ran from his nose. He turned back, trying to fight. He started swinging again. Big, strong punches, trying to end the fight with power. Each punch flew through the air like a cannonball. Even the crowd ducked, their heads moving like they were dodging too. Dante's arms shook with effort. His veins popped out. He was giving everything he had. His perfect record, 28 wins and no losses, was on the line. Jason lowered himself into a crouch. His knees bent. He moved with smooth skill, dodging the big swings. Dante's punch just touched his shoulder. Then Jason twisted inside Dante's reach and started punching back. Bam! One punch. Another one. Crack. A third. Jason hit Dante's ribs with short, hard punches. Each one landed with a loud sound. Dante's body shook with every hit. His strong chest bent. The punches were deep and painful. Dante groaned. His legs wobbled. He looked like a tree ready to fall. Jason's eyes were on fire. He didn't stop. He was fast, focused, and fierce. The crowd screamed louder than ever. The whole room felt like it might explode. The fight wasn't over yet, but the champ was falling. A's ripped out from his throat, loud and painful. His breathing turned short and rough. He was hurting badly now. With every punch he took, his strength was slipping away. The crowd could feel it. Something had changed. Something broke in Dante's tough shell. People started shouting louder. "He's losing! Dante is losing!" Some kids held their heads in their hands, their mouths open. Their favorite fighter, Dante, was falling. They couldn't believe it. The grown-ups who had watched fights for years jumped to their feet, yelling with all their might. "Keep going, Jason!" Dante's eyes went wide. Panic showed on his face, even through all the sweat and blood. He took a deep breath, the kind you take when you're scared but trying to be brave. Then he screamed, a loud roar from deep inside him.
The whole ring shook from the sound. Dante pulled his arm back, ready to punch with everything he had. It was his last big move. One huge punch to end the fight. He threw his arm forward with all his strength. It was fast, powerful, and wild. But Jason moved his head just in time. The punch missed by a little bit, just brushing past his suit. Dante lost his balance. He had used everything on that punch. He was open now. Jason saw his chance. He planted his feet strong. The ring made a soft sound under him. His muscles pulled tight like a spring ready to snap. Then, Jason's fist shot up fast in an uppercut, right under Dante's chin. It was a counterpunch, full of power, full of anger, full of truth. Smack! The sound of his punch hitting Dante's chin was loud, like a firecracker in the night. Dante's head flew back. His eyes turned white. His legs gave out, and he crashed to the mat. Boom! He didn't move. The crowd went wild. Everyone jumped, screamed, stomped, and clapped. The whole building shook. Some kids stood frozen, their mouths wide open. The old fighters in the crowd raised their hands to the sky, yelling, "That's it! That's the one!" The ring shook. The sound filled the whole room. All the doubt, all the bragging Dante had ever done, it was all gone now. Dante lay face down on the mat. Blood pooled under his cheek. His chest rose once, then again, and then stopped moving. His fists, once so tight, opened slowly. His eyes blinked open. He was in shock, just staring at the floor. He had lost. The crowd didn't stop. They roared louder. Stam! Stam! That was Jason's nickname. The old fans hugged each other. The kids who cheered for Dante were quiet now. Their hero was beaten. Their champion was down. Jason stood over Dante, breathing heavy. His face had blood on it. His suit was ripped at the shoulder, but his eyes looked strong and sure. He wiped blood from his face and flicked it onto the mat. Then he turned around, his boots making a loud sound as he walked toward the ropes. The lights above made the sweat on his forehead shine. Every eye in the place was on him. Standing at the side of the ring was a big man. George Foreman, a boxing legend. He had a little smile before, but now it had grown into a big, proud grin. He stood tall, proud of what he had seen. The crowd shouted louder than ever. They banged on tables and stomped their feet. Legend! Legend! But Jason didn't stop to enjoy it. His hands opened and closed once, then dropped to his sides. Dante, still lying there, groaned. His time as champion was over. All his bragging, all his pride, it was broken now. The whole room still buzzed. People couldn't stop cheering. They felt something special had just happened. Jason's win wasn't just a fight. It was a moment that people would talk about forever. Dante lay face down in the blood on the mat. His big strong body now looked small and broken. He pounded the floor with his fists once. Then again. A little fire of anger came back for just a moment. But it didn't last. His arms gave out. He breathed hard, shocked and sad.
Jason had knocked him out with one amazing punch. The noise in the hall didn't stop. Kids' mouths hung open. Old fans were still cheering. Jason jumped out of the ring. His boots hit the floor with a loud sound. His torn suit flapped as he bent down. He picked something up. It was a pair of gold gloves. George Foreman's gloves. The same ones Dante had disrespected earlier. Jason held them tight. He brushed them off on his sleeve, wiping away the blood and dirt. He still had blood on his cheek, like a badge from the battle. His eyes were calm but burning with fire. He walked over to George and handed the gloves back. George stepped forward, his huge body like a mountain. He placed a big hand on Jason's shoulder, squeezing tight. That said everything. No words were needed. The crowd noticed. They got quiet for a second, just enough to feel the moment. Then people started whispering, and it grew louder and louder. Jason turned fast and walked over to Dante, still lying on the mat, barely moving. Jason looked down at him. "You don't spit on the people who came before you," Jason said. His voice was low and sharp, like a knife. Then he kicked the ropes hard. Wham! The whole ring shook. Dante flinched. His head jerked up. His lips were crusty with blood. His eyes were full of shock and shame. He looked at Jason, then the gloves, then the mat. His pride was gone. His breath came in small gasps. The crowd moved closer. A wave of people pressed in. One old man, gray-haired and tough, jumped to his feet near the stage. He shouted through the noise, "That's a legacy carved in blood." That lit the crowd like fire. The hall exploded with cheers again. People pounded tables, stomped floors, shouted at the top of their lungs. The kids up front stared, mouths wide. Dante, their hero, was nothing now. His story was ripped apart right in front of them. Some of the kids woke up from their shock. They jumped up and screamed, "Jason! Jason!" They had a new hero now. The rest of the kids sat quietly, holding their heads, still in disbelief. The old fans laughed and clapped each other on the back. "I told you Jason had it." The noise got louder, a giant wave of cheers. Jason didn't move. He kept his head high. Sweat dripped down his face and onto his ruined suit. He walked to the door, each step loud, like drum beats. He didn't look back. He left the chaos behind him, like a storm that had passed, leaving everything changed. The hall kept shaking from the cheers. People slammed their fists on the walls. Chairs tipped over. Everyone was caught in the feeling. It was huge. It was real. George Foreman stood in the center of the ring. He held up the golden gloves, both hands raised high. He looked like a hero from a storybook. The crowd saw him and screamed as one. "Foreman! Foreman!" It rolled through the hall like thunder. Everyone felt it in their bones. George's name was safe. No one could laugh at it now. Thanks to Jason. Dante tried to stand. He got one knee up, then slipped, grabbing the ropes to stay up. His head was low. Blood dripped from his nose onto his chest. His hands shook. He had no more cheers. The crowd was done with him. His eyes looked around, wild and scared. He had lost everything. A man near the ring, an old trainer, shook his head and said, "Boy thought he could bury a giant. Got buried instead." The crowd kept roaring. Tables rattled. Voices cracked. The hall was alive, full of justice, full of truth. George lowered his gloves slowly, his body still strong and tall. He looked around the room, then stared at the door where Jason had walked out. A tiny smile touched his lips. He was proud. Jason was gone, but his power stayed. The air still buzzed. People kept shouting. Dante leaned on the ropes, shaking, broken. His fists were open now. His fight was gone. George stood tall in the ring, gloves in his hands. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. His heart made a silent promise, to the past and the future. The hall thundered. Every cheer, every stomp was a sign of what had just happened. Jason didn't just win. He changed the night. The ring, the crowd, the lights, they all remembered. Jason's fists didn't just fight. They spoke. They said, "Respect the ones who came before." Dante didn't, and he paid the price. Jason didn't need to brag. He didn't need to yell. His punches did the talking. His strength lifted legends and crushed pride. Each hit was like building a tower, not tearing one down. Real strength builds. So now, what about you? What makes you so mad you'd fight for it? What would make you stand tall, like Jason did? Tell your story. Share your fire. Because legends don't just stand, they strike. And the gloves? They still shine under the lights. If you like this story, tell me in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more fun adventures and mysteries. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.